Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier podcast, but it is Friday, so you know it's our preview for the Liverpool game. It is the Shankly sessions. As always, I'm joined by my brother Dino. How are we? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. You hear me now?
Have you now? Perfect. Yeah. Now go ahead.
I'm still riding that wave of ecstasy after that 100-minute winner against Newcastle the other night. It's a good time to be alive.
People had their phones like that. They were just ready to press send. And then they had to backtrack. I love that. Also join us, a man who you are familiar with, who's been joining us on some of the wrestling shows and stuff like that as well. And we tend to agree reasonably together when it comes to wrestling. We have a similar opinion, a similar like and stuff like that. Tonight might be a little bit different because he's joining us for a football show tonight. Kenny, of course, is a big Arsenal fan as well. His other passion apart from pro wrestling and art and music, the same as myself and Dean. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Niall. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it. I'm outnumbered by the looks of things here, but, I'm prepared. It's all good. Let's do it.
We go easy. In the comments, Baz is there. Big up, Baz. Hope you're good, my friend. Also, folks, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, and drop a like on the video as well. Really, really important to share the content out there and stuff like that. So we will begin, first of all, with the transfer window and how we feel about that. Kenny, you're on the show tonight. You're Arsenal. Kick us off. There's a list more or less of what's happened in the Arsenal window. I put the boy Hincapié in there as well with a question mark. I assume it's going to happen. Sounds like it's going to be a long day and stuff like that. I think Kivior is going to exit the building by the sounds of things. So that's where that's all coming in. Fire away. Tell us how you feel about how the business went. Any shortcomings, any kind of worries or anything like that? Or are you happy? How you feel?
I think you can add. I believe there was something on Fabio Vieira as well. I briefly spotted on X there just before we went live. So I think he could be added to the out list now shortly as well. But the interesting thing about it, I suppose, look, we can all talk about injuries and how they can pile up and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, if you're not prepared for these type of events, because it's almost inevitable, then you're just preparing for failure. And that's what we did last season. We had so many different opportunities last season to fix what was going to be broken, as we knew was going to be broken. We lost Saka just before Christmas. We brought in the boy Waneri. The week later, he went out for a couple of weeks straight away. We tried to Jesus out there, and he went out for the season. And then that kind of, a lot of that was kind of very much unlucky on our part. But listen, they had a transfer window. I know it's difficult in January to get players in, to get the right type of players, but they had an opportunity to get bodies in the door, and they didn't do it, and they failed miserably in the end. So when I'm looking at that list there, you're talking about players that went out. Jorginho served his purpose. He was great when he was at the club. You're looking at Thomas Partey. I don't think we'll speak much about him, but nonetheless. But then, of course, you have likes of Kieran Tierney, barely kicked the ball over the last maybe year and a half, 2 years. So what they've done is they've replaced players that they've lost, and then they've also replaced players that would have had to replace those players, if that makes any sense. So with likes of bringing in Zubimendi, he'll slot in nicely for Partey, and then of course you have Norgard, who will slip in nicely for Jorginho. So in my opinion, what they've done is they've upgraded what they lost, and they've upgraded the replacements as well. And already you've seen, with Saka going out injured there last week and Odegaard, they've already have a contingency plan in there with the likes of Madueke and now Eze as well. So on paper, it looks fantastic. They've got the number 9 in that we've been crying out for since Aubameyang, I suppose. They've got Gyökeres in there now as well, and now there's no excuses. So you look at that on paper, you combine it with the last performance against Leeds United, and you just think to yourself, there can be no excuses. If they fall short this season, then there's literally, you cannot excuse failure in that. And the reality is, as great as they've strengthened, look to the right-hand side of that list as well. You see how great Liverpool have strengthened. So it's going to be difficult, but happy with the window.
Would you say, And it's something that I thought about during the summer as well. When I looked at Arsenal towards the end of last season, and we know as Liverpool fans how difficult it is to fucking chase Man City down and try and capture them and stuff like that. You've tried it for a couple of seasons. We've been trying it for God knows how long until we got there and stuff like that. And it's mentally taxing on players as well. They keep on coming up short in such a long, tough war of attrition of a season, really. And like we've lost out on the last day by points and, you know, last kicks of games and all sorts of stuff and all, you know. So, and it's tough to take that, and it can be mentally taxing on you. And I think when I looked at Arsenal last year, towards the end of the season, I thought I felt the kind of same, that they kind of like, they looked banjaxed. They looked like they'd had a real tough season, trying to manage injuries, trying to fill gaps, you know, coming second again. And I don't think last year, I don't think you'd even call it a title race because it pittered out pretty quick. But I just think in terms of getting that group of players and really lighting a litmus or a fuse under them again for this season, because this, you would feel this season if they come second again, like it's kind of where do you go? You know what I mean? Because you've
Well, you do,
upscaled
Niall,
so
but
much.
you still have to put that into context as well, though, and you can only go off of basic observations as well. So, I mean, let's just take a scenario, right? They finished second again for the fourth year in a row. But let's take the scenario where they lost it on goal difference, or they lost it by a point, or you know, there was a fight in them. Then that second doesn't seem like massive failure because they fought to the last minute. Now, if they lose the league by 10 points again, like they did last season, then you say absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace, no doubt about that. But I suppose you have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to show respect to your opponents as well. And the biggest picture here is Liverpool look better on paper than they did last season. You could argue with that transfer window. So you have to show that kind of respect as well. Yes, we've strengthened. Yes, we got players in. But if we finish second to that brilliant Liverpool team, as long as there's fight in there, I say earlier on, there can be no excuses. But let's be honest, if there's a fight, then you could say, well, look, we done what we could. We got the points in the bag. They were just better than us. Then you'd hold your hand up.
Every fight has a winner and a loser. That's just the way it is. I think the SA deal and him coming in, I think is pivotal as well, because I think, okay, you bring in Zubamendi, but he's kind of coming in, you know, as that replacement for Thomas Partey, who, you know, apart from the off-field stuff that's going on and stuff like that, was a fantastic player. There's no doubt about it. Super player, Thomas Partey. Then you bring in Victor, the guy that you wanted, the striker. This is it, the number 9, boom, 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 boom. And then you bring in Esse. So now you're having players, the likes of Declan Rice, you know, those type of players, the likes of Gabriel, the likes of Saliba, now looking around the dressing room thinking, now I think we're fucking serious about our business here. This is serious business here now. There's a plan here. We've invested another 250 million, whatever it is. We're going to go again here. We know how good the keeper and the defense is. We're after bringing in the striker. We're after bringing in, you know, I suppose that the thing about it, losing Saka and losing Odegaard obviously disables it a little bit, because obviously there is still that issue on the left-hand side between Martinelli and Trossard and stuff like that doesn't quite feel like it has been uplifted in any way, depending on how you set them up and stuff like that. But I think bringing in Eberechi Esse, and I think you've tried a number of seasons, a number of clubs have, to get him out of Crystal Palace, and finally you did it. And he's coming in kind of in his prime. He will get you goals. He will get you GA. There's no doubt about it. His link-up play from the midfield to the front is absolutely fabulous. And I think he will be the pivotal one. Because my biggest concern when Victor came in was, okay, you've brought Victor in and you've brought Zubamendi in to replace Thomas Partey. But where's the creativity going to come in that midfield? Because obviously with Odegaard, at times he's the guy that has to do the creating, but at times he can be very blunt and all over the place. He kind of sits on the left, but, you know, goes over to the right. Sometimes he's central. Just seems to be everywhere, and seems to have that kind of freedom to go wherever he wants, that at times can leave you a little bit exposed, and doesn't kind of create as much as what you would expect from a guy in that position playing for Arsenal, who are, you know, arguably either the best or the second best team in the league at the moment, for argument's sake. So that was my key one, was Eberechi Esse. Dean, what did you feel about it?
Yeah, I just want to touch on what Kenny said with like the signing of Zubamendi. You know, the kind of like replacements. You know, like what he said, bringing in players to replace players that were already in to replace other players. It's just a continued recycling phase. But bringing in Zubamendi, for me, I'm a big fan of Zubamendi. I was talking about him a lot last season, Niall. I was very excited when that deal looked to be coming, when he was going to come to Liverpool, and then he changed his mind. I think Zubamendi going to Arsenal frees up Rice a lot more. But the Eze one, for me, I've talked about that for a few weeks. If Arsenal could get him, bringing in Gyökeres, having Saka, who's prone to picking up injuries, Eze, for me, has come in at the perfect time, because with Saka getting injury, I think this game is the perfect game for Wirtz, which I'll touch on in a while, but it's also the perfect game for Eze, because with Saka not there, everyone's going to look to him. It's the perfect opportunity to hit the ground running. The ex-Arsenal boy coming back, the spotlight will be on him. It will take a lot of pressure off Gyökeres. But Zubamendi coming in frees up Rice as well. Like I have wrote down like that. Most games are won in the middle of the park. But I'm intrigued with McAllister coming back into the Liverpool team. The middle of the park is going to be absolutely fantastic and fascinating to watch on Sunday, because I've said all week, I think this is the perfect game for Wirtz. I think there'll be a lot more space for him, because Arsenal will play open and expansive football, as will we. We've been kind of lackadaisy with Konate at the back. He's kind of been a liability. So there's a lot of positives for Liverpool. Like, we can't get any worse than we did on Monday night. And being at home, I'd imagine the atmosphere is going to be through the roof. There's so many players that have yet to prove themselves. I know we're only 2 games in, but there's 3 or 4 players that haven't kind of made an impact on the game so far. This is the perfect opportunity for them. But for Eze and Gyökeres, this is also the perfect opportunity for them, because I'd imagine they're going to target Konate.
Yeah. The only thing I would be worried about is if we cough up those chances to Arsenal. I think Arsenal are in a better position to take them than Newcastle are.
Yeah.
That's my only fear. And what happens is, if you do that very early in the game, and we shouldn't do it because it's Anfield, we should be more dominant in that area because we're at home. The onus is on us. But if we do let that happen, that game could slip away from us pretty quickly, because Arsenal could be quite clinical then when we allow those chances, and that's kind of sometimes is what happens. Kenny, what have you made of our window? What has stuck out in our window? What have you seen over the last 2 games or whatever it is?
Well, the obvious one really is Ekitike. I think he prior to moving to Liverpool, there was a lot of talk about him being, the next this and the next that, which I always hate hearing those type of comparisons. I think it's ridiculous, and I don't really pay much attention to him. But I knew there was something about this guy as well. He definitely had something. And I watched him in the Community Shield as well as the first 2 games of the league season, and the guy is the real deal. And it leads to the question: as you're looking at obviously raiding Newcastle for Mr. Isak there at some point in time, you just think to yourself, well, it's 150 million or whatever's going to be on the table at the end. But this Ekitike fella, he looks like the guy who could be the standout player this season, not just for Liverpool, just in the Premier League in general. And I've really, really been impressed with him. I think Frimpong will be a great addition. I know he's injured there at the moment, but I think that's a fantastic signing. I was looking at the caliber of players that Liverpool have brought in since the summer. They got a lot of their business done nice and early as well. And I was instantly concerned about the level and the quality that they're bringing into the football club, because they're coming back off a season where they're outstanding. And there was a lot of this BS talk that said, oh well, sure, look, it was a season where City never took off, and there was a season where Arsenal had injuries. But the reality is Liverpool were unstoppable, and even if they didn't have the injuries and if City still were that juggernaut, Liverpool most likely would have still gone on to win the league anyway. So now they're after improving onto that quality they already had. It's worrying. I'd be very worried. And now if they add like Gay and Isak to that list as well, I'm sorry, but that's game over. That's game over. I can't see past it. That's just adding unnecessary quality to what was already a really, really good side, to be fair. So yeah, I'm looking at that list of players. Obviously, there's a few outs that will that I suppose, look, you guys will know better. You're looking at likes of Darwin Núñez, Trent, Kelleher. Obviously you wanted game time as well. Luis Diaz. There's a few players like that who are quite, they've done their work for Liverpool over the years, to be fair. You know what I mean? So yeah, a lot of outs, a lot of ins, a lot of trying to fix different components of the team as well. It's not going to work straight away. And I think you've noticed that in the first 2 games, uncharacteristically conceding goals, like 4 goals in 2 games, which was unheard of last season. to be fair, for the majority of it. So, yeah, look, I think Liverpool will still be the favourites to win the league. There's no question to be favourites on Sunday as well, for the reason because they're that good. You can't look past that, and then go back to the point where we're saying, you know, you have to show them as much respect as you can because they've earned that right, and you know you can't argue with that. But serious business. I'm worried. There's some unbelievable ball players. Right? Ekitike, mark my words. I have in my fantasy football team. He's a baller. Proper player.
I got in a fantasy football there the other day, and it's just all the Burnley players because they're playing United.
You should have put that as a thumbnail.
Yeah. Keith saying I would like to keep Harvey for another season, just have that depth. Myself and Dino only had that conversation today, actually on WhatsApp. We were talking about Harvey as well. So yeah, no, I think we've done some great business, and myself and Dino, one thing that's always let us down is the club has never really built on success, and this is the first time we've gone out there and gone, right, we're super successful. Now we want to create that gap and go that next step. And I think this is the first time we've really, really seen it at this kind of level and stuff like that. And good Lord, if Isaac comes in as well and Gahey, and I find it hard to believe that they won't happen because we've shook our bum at them so badly for the last, literally. I know Newcastle fans will tell us that we turned Isaac's head, but I mean,
that's business. That's the game, isn't it?
Big teams are big teams, aren't they? Big teams are big teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It was it's been a very good window so far, and we've brought in a nice sprinkling of youth as well. Go ahead, Dano. Yeah.
Just on that though, like as good as the window has been, and I couldn't agree with Kenny anymore. Like it's so, like it's surreal for me to have a window like this, because how many summers in a row, Niall, would you'd probably be muting my name from the group because it was just a constant complaining about, we're not building on success, or we're nearly there, we just lost it by a point, why are we not going out and buying the players to take us to that next level? And then when you sit and think about it, we've waited for the perfect opportunity. There's a massive recycling phase going on at Man City. They've brought in Pep Linders, trying to get him to play. They looked like in the first game of the season, they looked like they could play that high tempo Liverpool rock and roll football, because I believe that's why they brought in Linders, to try and change things up. Everybody knows how Man City plays, but with that change in them, it's also leaving them vulnerable, as we've seen against Spurs last week. Arsenal again. I just want to touch on that as well. You were speaking with Kenny at the very beginning, just on the money spent. Kenny, Arteta has now spent over £1 billion on players since he's took over as manager. He's won absolutely nothing. Can you see him? I do think Arsenal will be there or thereabouts. Do you think if Arsenal were to have a bad run and be outside of the picture come Christmas, can you see him being sacked? I know it's a long season, but with the money spent, that's insane pressure, Kenny.
It is, but again, we always talk about context when we're talking about football, and we put things into the bigger picture here. We talk about the 3 seasons they finished second in the league. That first year, we had no right being in a title race. I don't know where that even came out of, and for some reason, bang, we're in the title race, and it was just inexperience that cost us in the final third. The second season, we're up against an unrealistic juggernaut in Manchester City. I mean, we lost 1 game in that calendar year and still couldn't win the league. Do you know what I mean? Because they just kept winning and winning and winning and winning. There's nothing you can do about that. Last season was a disgrace from start to finish. It was an embarrassment. They were absolutely horrendous. And I think they just down tools midway through the season. They just knew that it was over. They couldn't cope with it. They'd burnt players out. I remember watching Havertz on the ground at the Molineux up against Wolves, couldn't even pick himself up off the floor because he'd been burnt completely. So I think context is important. I mean, as I was saying at the start, let's just say they lose the league by a point or two or on the final day of the season. There's a fight there. If they lose the league by 10 points, it's inexcusable, especially as you quite rightly pointed out, about spending all that kind of money as well. I'm not a fan of sacking managers though, because there's the bigger picture as well. He's come in at a time where the club had lost completely its identity. A lot of that was ruined by that garbage AFTV, Football Club TV, whatever the hell it was called. An absolute virus that plowed its way through the football club, and it really did a lot of damage, just to ease their own egos, if you like, and fill their own pockets. And I hate them for that. The thing about it is, Arteta came in, he brought the identity back, he turned us into a title challenger out of absolutely nowhere. Yes, he spent a lot of money. I'm not a fan of sacking managers. I'm really not. Because, like, let's say we sack Arteta at the end of the season because he finished 10 points behind. Who comes in? Who do you get? Who can do a better job at that football club? You have to look at the bigger picture and say, if they lose the league by 10 points, it's because Liverpool are just that damn good.
Yeah,
that's another side of it. Or City were that good, or whoever does end up winning the title. You have to look at the bigger picture there. So no, I definitely wouldn't. I'd be behind the manager 100% irrespective, because I don't believe they'll teeter out this season like they did last. They can't. They can't allow that to happen another season, because they put the tools in. They brought the players in. They brought quality players in. And I don't think they will teeter out. If they lose the league, it's because Liverpool were exceptional, which I expect Liverpool to be exceptional this season. I expect Man City to be better this season. So
just
I just think it's going to be.
Go on, finish off, Kenny. Sorry.
No, I just feel it's going to be an exceptionally competitive league this season. It's not going to be anything like last season. I think from number 1 down to number maybe 18 or 19, I think they're capable of competing week in, week out. And I think even you've seen with the 3 teams that have come up as well, that can do that as well. So yeah, I just to kind of long-winded answer to your question, Dino. No, I would not be in the opinion of sacking the manager this season. Not a hope.
I think that this season is going to be one of the best Premier League seasons since it started out. You look at the squads that are being built. I know it's a massive if to have 4 or 5 teams run the distance, but if Spurs can keep, I think Spurs are going to be fantastic this season. We've seen it last week against Man City. If they can keep players injury free, I think they're going to be thereabouts. If Chelsea players perform to what you'd like to think they can perform to on paper, they're going to be thereabouts. City, probably good to get that defeat out of the way last week, sit back and look at what went wrong and go from there. I think this season is going to be absolutely phenomenal. But just touching back to the original question about a transfer window, it's been fantastic, Niall. I'm absolutely over the moon. Bit of a concern about Frimpong getting injured so early into the season. But I just think these 2 deals have to go through, because as amazing as it sounds, Isak and Gay coming in on top of what we've got, if they fall through, there's still a massive hole in the gap in the squads. You know what I mean? So I'd say they will. I say they will happen, but that's the other side of the coin. If they don't happen, and it's very, very close to the end of the transfer window, there's a massive hole. Who covers Ekatike? What's going to happen with Konate and Real Madrid? Can Joe Gomez stay fit? Does Endo fit into the picture? And does he do a job dragged out over the course of the season? So it's fascinating. But yeah, looking at both transfer windows there, like Sunday, I'm absolutely buzzing for Sunday. The 2 squads on papers from 1 to 16 or 1 to 18 or whatever, and the subs are going to play a massive part as well this weekend.
Do you know, the only thing I think about Sunday is I think I'd rather it came a little bit later in the season when we both established our teams and we're both absolutely humming, because I just think it's come a little bit early. We're kind of a little bit all over the place at the moment. Arsenal as well are kind of, you know what I mean? You see what happened with the United game. Obviously, it's the first game. Then in the next game, you hand out that trashing and stuff like that and all. And then you're going to settle down a little bit. But I would have liked to see them both at the peak of their powers, because I think this season will come down to both of us. I really do. I don't think City will have a conversation in this at all. I expect them to fall away, and to be honest with you, I think they'll very quickly find themselves in a top 4 race. I don't think they've done enough, and I think it's more of the same. And I would hazard to say that maybe they'll feel that Pep has stayed a season too long, and he'll end up becoming the villain, as they say, as the saying goes. So we'll see what happens and stuff.
Do we think with City, Niall, that Linders has probably came in to work under Pep? Do we think that maybe something is being said in the background that he's going to stay for the season, but that's why they brought in Linders? Linders said he'd never be an assistant to anyone again in football. He went off and absolutely shit in the bed at Salzburg. Do you think he could be brought in as the understudy to take over?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. If that Man City job comes up, there's only 2 people who are going to throw their hat in the ring. Well, 2 people that you would think would be in there. I think Arteta might be one of them. I think he might fancy that job. Depending on what happens with Arsenal this season. And I think the other one who's a nailed on one is Vincent Kompany at Bayern Munich. I think will absolutely go back there. Statue outside the ground, so much history, won so much with them and stuff like that. Now, I know he's doing absolutely wonderful at Bayern Munich and stuff like that, but the draw of the Premier League, the exposure that it gets, Man City, generally a bottomless budget, normally taking over a reasonable squad and all that kind of stuff. I think that'd be so tempting for a Vincent Kompany. But I think Arteta as well might have it in the back of his mind as well that if things don't go the way he wants at Arsenal, and if it does get a bit toxic and he has to get out of town, certainly you could see Arteta ending up at Man City. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Just
they're
on
the two that I think.
Just on what that originally started from about the imbalance in their squad, like in both games this season, like Gravenberch missed the first game of the season, and then McAllister missed the second game of the season. Bradley coming back in this Sunday, and McAllister coming in beside. That's why I think Sunday is perfect for us. This is the game where everybody is where we want them to be. I'd rather go with Bradley against Arsenal, a more composed defending right back. Can get open back, can score goals, can get assists, but he knows what this game is about. He's been involved in that game already. McAllister coming in beside Gravenberch with Wirtz having all the freedom in the world. You know, you had to look at the midfield of the park in both games. We were missing that anchor. Now the two boys are back. Wirtz has that freedom. Ekitike, I just think Sunday is going to be a fascinating game. I think this is the fireworks is. The fuse is going to be lit for the fireworks. That this game could be the one that really gets the season off and running.
Yeah, you're probably talking about potentially the best front line going up against the best defense in the league, and how is that going to match up, and how does that look and stuff like that. Acers, the reason they didn't go for Acers, the reason they didn't go for Xavi Simons is Chelsea are in a bit of bother at the moment with UEFA because they're in the red zone, because UEFA don't allow you to sell hotels to yourself and women's teams to yourself and all that kind of stuff. So that's where their problem is there. They needed Jackson out the door. They brought in, I think Nkunku went to AC Milan, and that allowed them to do the Garnacho deal. But Xavi Simons then was on the hold, if you like, and because of that, he decided to go to Spurs. But I think they'll regret that one because he's a heck of a baller. I think if Pep leaves, I think Arteta is a shoe-in to be the next manager. Absolutely.
I've said Arteta would walk out the door of Arsenal tomorrow morning if City rang him. I've said that all along. I've said that in the group for the last couple of years, Niall. He will walk back to Manchester if that job becomes available.
Do you think that, Kenny? Would you agree with that, Kenny?
Not at all. No, I would definitely suggest that would be the case. As like you alluded to, Niall, if things start to get a bit toxic around the football club, then that would be the only reason. But even when you hear about Pep talking about Arteta, we heard him in interviews, and you hear him, and he was kind of inadvertently saying that, you know, he was waiting for that job. He was waiting to come home for all argument's sake. He wanted the Arsenal job and nothing else. And you know, I think Arteta is a very stubborn man. He's a very, very stubborn man, and you've seen that in his interviews. He's exceptionally stubborn. He will not leave that football club until he's had that success. He won't do it. One FA Cup is not going to be that measure of success. He'll need that big one yet, and he will not, unless he's pushed out the door. He won't walk. Not a hope. He loves the club too much. He loves the club more than he does Man City. He had a great time at Man City. Do I see him eventually becoming a City manager? Perhaps, but not for the foreseeable, I don't think. He's got unfinished business, but like you said, if things go south and toxic with the fans, which I don't think it will, I think generally the fans are behind me. There's the odd contingent, and I know you, Niall, you've great fun on X, having fun with a lot of the Gooners on that platform, which is I always get a giggle out of. But I think the majority of the fan base are good. They like him. They like what he's done. They like the fact that he's brought the identity back to the football club, the unity back with the fans. I mean, that was not an easy job to do, you know, but he's done it. And no, I definitely think he's there for the foreseeable, unless he's pushed out that door. I can't see it.
Do you know what's taking that toxicity out of the picture at Arsenal? It's, you touched on it there, that Arsenal fan TV. Me and Niall used to have great crack watching Arsenal fan TV. I believe if that was still running and that gobshite DT was still allowed having an opinion on Arsenal Football Club to the extent he did, I think the divide in the Arsenal fan base would be terrifying.
Well, actually, the funny thing about it is AFTV are very pro Arteta. very, very pro Arteta now. They're not.
But it was
not,
just a case. It was just that DT used to go around the Emirates looking for trouble. That's what massaged his ego. Was
100%.
I genuinely think that guy lived off a deep hatred dividing the Arsenal fan base because it kept him relevant.
But there's a few of them. You know, there's a few of them. You've got Lee Judge's fella, even Robbie, who's a self-made Luton Town fan. He believes he's an Arsenal fan now. I don't know how that works, but anyway, you know, and you've got the likes of that Troops who, you know, could barely decipher a word that comes out of his mouth, to be honest with you. But each and every one of them bring that level of extra toxicity to that football club. And, you know, Lee Gunner, that guy, I've had to block him about 150 times. He must have so many burner phones. I don't know what's going on because he keeps popping up somewhere, and I keep blocking because I cannot stand listening to his absolute, like, nobody could be that idiotic. Nobody on this planet could be that idiotic towards our football club. It's just not physically possible. He's clearly doing it for the obvious reasons, you know, for the benefit himself. But you're absolutely right. The AFTV was very close to down in that football club, to a point where I don't think it would return very, very easily from. You know,
they got way too close to the players. They got way too close to the players. You know, you're a fan, but you shouldn't be allowed to get close to the players when you're on the internet morning, noon, and night, and every weekend. Like the stuff that they were coming up with, you know, it got views and made them money, but in the end, look where it got them. Absolutely fucking nowhere. Half them are sitting in their mass basement.
You know, like
half them are
football club. It didn't matter. The results. Sorry, no, I'll actually reverse it. The results did matter. The results did matter, but from a negative perspective, because who wanted to watch AFTV when we're after battering, you know, Swansea City 4-5-0? Nobody wanted to tune into that. People wanted to tune in to hear the meltdowns. That was it. And I'll be honest with you, they nearly had me. They nearly had me at one point, and it was the best thing I ever did was block every form of AFTV on every form of social media because, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to get down that road. I just wanted to support my football club like a normal person, and not have a meltdown unnecessarily, you know, and that's what it is like.
Yeah. Kate's in with a question probably for you, Dano. Question for you guys. Do you think Liverpool can afford to sell more players this late into the window? I know Costas is leaving. Yeah, that loan deal is was announced tonight with Roma. But I feel we can't afford to let Harvey leave at this point. The problem for Harvey, Keith, is Harvey needs football because it's a World Cup year. He's had an unbelievable under-21s, and I'm sure he wants to step up now, and has a big opportunity to be part of that England squad in the World Cup next year. So he needs to go and play. Now, be it a loan deal or whatever it is, he can't be sitting on the bench, the guy that comes on for 10 minutes for Mo Salah when we're 4 or 5-0 up in certain games, stuff like that. So he has to go play, and we can't give him that playing time. And that's the conundrum.
This is the thing with Harvey. Me and you had a kind of a little back and forth. No, it was nothing. Like, it was just basically two fans with difference of opinions. I was a massive fan of Harvey before. Remember Noel, me and you sitting on a build up to the season, and I was talking about Harvey Elliott. This is my guy. I've been watching him, following him. Unfortunately, he broke his leg. The other unfortunate thing is it's like Liverpool coming up in that period where Man City were on the other side of us. There's not one player in world football that Liverpool could have signed that would have outed Mohamed Salah from our team. Like, nobody. So, unfortunately for Harvey, but as you said, he went off in the summer, won the Euros, got player of the tournament. I think he picked up 2 or 3 man of the matches, scored some great goals, got lots of assists. If Harvey Elliott is staying, which you've heard now that he is, he's obviously agreed to stay. He's obviously they've sat down and looked, and I believe that, you know, we're only hearing good things about Slot. We heard it, that the interview from Salah about Slot blew my mind. You know, I was intrigued to see how a personal relationship between one of our greatest ever players is with a manager who's only in the door a year. But he's obviously sat down with Harvey and said, look, Harvey, I don't think there's anybody out there. Yeah, we can get 45, 50 million for you, but I don't think there's anybody out there that we can bring in who's going to sit in a World Cup year to cover for Mo Salah. But the one thing I can give you is maybe 3 Champions League games, Cup games. Mo Salah goes away to the AFCON for 8 games. There's plenty of game time there to get himself in the squad for the World Cup. It's about being consistent when he does get them chances. And that's the concern. If he stay, I'm more than happy for him to stay, but is he in the right mindset that as soon as he's needed to come in to cover for Mo Salah, that he can come in and do a job? He's done a fantastic job, but again, it's being prepared for that game time when it comes along. The other one that we've heard about is Bajcetic. I watched him last season. He was absolutely fantastic. I kind of forgot about him this summer because he wasn't talked about that much. Now we're hearing that he's staying. I'm happy enough with that. You know, he's not going to be looking and saying I can push myself into the Spain picture. That's a big ask to get into the squad for the Spanish World Cup. You know, their midfield is packed. But look, I think it's way too late. Who do you go out and replace Harvey Elliott with? You're leaving a massive space there, especially with Frimpong already showing signs that, you know, he's already injured after a game into the season. There's nobody there. If you sell Elliott, there's nobody there to play on. You can play Szoboszlai, but I'd rather Szoboszlai playing through the middle if he's going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but it's what happens is once you reach this level and you start buying in this level of players like you've seen on the slide, the real challenge for the manager is how do you keep people happy? Right, let's get into the game. Let's talk about the two teams and lineups and stuff like that and all, and how do we feel and what are we going with? Kenny, you kick us off with Arsenal first of all. I just assumed, Darren spoke about it last night, we assumed Madueke will go out to replace Saka, and we assumed that Eze will come in at the tip to replace Odegaard, and everything else will be as you were. I don't know if you've any ideas, any changes, anything else that you've heard, or is that pretty much your thinking?
Gauge. Yeah, because listening to the press conference there today, obviously Saka is 100% now. There's still a question mark over Odegaard, whether if he trains tomorrow, then he's got a chance of playing. So whether he does or not, I'm not too sure. So everything will be kind of hinging on that late. They'll leave it as late as possible, I'm sure.
Would you risk him, Kenny, having SA in there now? Would you risk him?
I would. I'd be honest, I would.
Down and then you lose him.
Well, but here's the bigger picture, and that's why I was so impressed with that Eze signing, is because I think the natural progression for Eze will go into that central position, I think, long term. But right now, as you quite rightly said, we have a massive weakness down that left-hand side. Martinelli's got no end product. Trossard is hot and cold. He's more of a player to come off the bench. So Eze right now, for me, goes out wide left, and Odegaard sits into that number 8 role. What I like about it is that when Odegaard is a little bit cold, then what you can do is you can now shift Eze into that central role and then bring Trossard out into the left-hand side. So you can mix and match it and change things up a little differently, whereas we didn't have that option before. Odegaard was cold, we were cold, and there was no backup plan. So I think on Sunday, what will happen there, I think Arteta is a shrewd character. So I don't know what's going to happen at Odegaard. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll be on the bench. I think Eze will sit into that number 8 role with Madueke going into the right side. Martinelli, he's often played well against Liverpool, but I've no faith in him. And then other than that, the other side then will it be Calafiori with Miles Lewis-Skelly? I don't really know. I think defensively, you'd probably pick Calafiori maybe over Miles Lewis-Skelly, but offensively he gets in because he transitions into that kind of that midfield role off the ball, and he's very well carrying the ball, or very good at carrying the ball as well to open up those pockets of space. So I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's all going to hinge on the Odegaard situation, whether he's fit or if he's not fit. That's probably where we are at that one.
You're thinking at the moment then is if Odegaard plays, you think Eze will play where Martinelli is?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
I think if Odegaard doesn't start, I think Norgard is going to come into the middle of the park. I think Rice could play a little higher up the pitch. And I think this game is pivotal for Arsenal. As Kenny said, Martinelli, what a player he can be on his day. I just think a game of this intensity with both teams 2 out of 2, you're looking to get that little step ahead of the other. I just think Arsenal need to go for it. I think if Odegaard is not fit, I think he'll put Norgard in the middle of the park, who I think is an unbelievable, so underrated signing for Arsenal. I think Declan Rice could play a little bit higher up, and I think Eze plays out on the left with Madueke on the right.
My only fear with Norgard, because I think you're absolutely right, if he's fit, I think he put him in there because I think he puts a little bit more balance into that midfield, and he can sneak you a goal as well. Remember, from set pieces, he's quite good at that. But I think the problem with Absolutely, but I think the problem with Norgard at the moment is that he's had very little training under his belt over the last couple of weeks. He's been out injured, obviously, as well. So I don't think he'd have the minutes. I think he'd be better to come off the bench. I know he is available. I know Ben White's available now as well for Sunday. So I think he'll play a part, but I just don't think he has the legs to start the game, unfortunately. But I would absolutely agree with you. Other than that, I would definitely throw him in there. Other than that, he'd be perfect for it.
I think you'll need Royce in there with Zubimendi if you're going in against Gravenberch and McAllister. I think you'd need him.
The game will be won in midfield. That's the reality. You know, like most games are. I know that's a kind of a cliche, but I think in this case, it very much. You look at that midfield pairing on both sides. Like, I mean, on paper, they're pretty strong. Let's be honest.
We should have before we came into this. Now we should have done a combined 11 because like that's too. I'm not a fan of Madueke, to be honest, or Martinelli on his. Unless Martinelli is 100%, he's going to be a fantastic player. But them two teams on paper, the combined 11 is quality.
Do you know what it is about it? It's probably a little bit unfair to do it because there's so many new faces and so many faces that are new to clubs and they're trying to settle in and stuff like that. And also, the thing about it is, do you put Florian Wirtz in there or do you put Eberiche Esse? And we haven't really seen enough of either of them at this stage to really make a judgment on it. You know what I mean? Raya and Allison are both absolutely royalty when it comes to goalkeeping. How do you separate them? You know what I mean? And then, it'd be just so difficult. Bradley's only back at right back and all. So Timbers had a fantastic start to the season. Kerkez has been indifferent. Calafiori, so like it's to do a combined 11. It's very early to do that with so many new faces in there and a new structure and other players who've come in from other teams in the Prem. I think it'd be so difficult. Like how would you pick between Gravenberch and Zubimendi? It's so difficult. Anywhere else, Dana? Where do you think key kind of battles and stuff like that? And all, are we thinking set pieces are obviously going to be key as well, aren't they?
Yeah, Arsenal are the set piece kings. Bradley only coming back in. Kerkez wouldn't exactly be the tallest. Kanate has not really been at the races. And then Arsenal, I don't know how many goals to score in every season now from set pieces. They're the set piece kings. I think their set piece coach got an MBA or something, or he got a parade through London last season. But intriguing. Gokeres has a lot to prove. Ekitike has shown he is ready to prove. Wirtz has to step up. He's kind of been idle in both games. Eze coming in. The Arsenal boy returning. We know how good he can be. The middle of the park, I know it's so cliche. The game's going to be won and lost in the middle of the park. But looking at those both midfield three, if Arsenal were to go with that middle three, or with Odegaard there against Wirtz, Gravenberch and McAllister, it's all set up for fireworks. Yeah, I do think us being at home, I think the crowd is going to be at its best on Sunday. Isaac and Gay coming out to the Austin music with the beers and all that. Getting the crowd going. And
Isaac with brown ale
and a Shearer mask on. No, but in all seriousness, what you said, two goalkeepers are absolute royalty. We're talking about the two best centre backs in the league, Saliba and Van Dijk. Kerkez, best left back in the league last season. Bradley, we know how good he can be. Not taking anything away from Arsenal. Declan Rice, nominated for a Ballon d'Or. Zubimendi, how much of a fan I am for him. It's all set up for fireworks, and it's just going to be probably a 0-0 now, don't you?
There we go. Absolutely.
It's going to be extreme when you look at both teams there side to side. It's so technical as well.
Yeah.
And it's really okay, we've had an indifferent start because we've been a little bit open on both flanks and stuff like that now. But when you look at both those teams there on paper, how would you pick between them and stuff like that? You could see why we believe both these teams are going to be fighting it out for the league this year. Because it's just
though? I think what's going to be interesting with this game, and you kind of picked up on this at the start, Niall. The fact that it's on so early and it's 3 games in. All right. So I don't believe there's going to be as much kind of pressure on the shoulders of these players as such. Now, there's always going to be a certain degree of pressure. Imagine this game was second or third last game of the season. The pressure that on those players.
For all the players, for all the
yeah. Like 3 games in, it's obviously you want to put down the marker. As you said, it probably will end up 0-0. No, I can't. It definitely won't end 0-0.
It's more so. it's more so, Kenny. It's as you said. If this was coming towards the end of the season, where you're trying to catch one or the other, or you're trying to catch someone that's above you and push them out of the picture, it's 3 games in, both at 2 out of 2. Someone's always got to go. Do I think it's going to be a draw? No. I think it's going to be a very high scoring game. I think it's going to be very open. I think both managers. The point, this is why I think it's such a good time for it, is we're only 3 games in. This is someone trying to get a step ahead of the other. You know what I mean? You're trying to steal a march. And these are the 2 teams that everybody is saying is going to be in first and second. That's why I think both teams are going to be gung-ho, all out. I don't think it's going to be reserved at all.
I don't know. I'm slightly of a different vein on this. I think there'll be a little bit of a failing out period in this. I think these 2 teams now, there's the huge level of respect there when you look at the quality on the pitch and all. I think if a team goes like that and goes gung-ho from the beginning, I think we're going to have to be really careful about that high line as well. When you look at that front line for Arsenal, if that's what it is, we will get opened up if we're not really careful. Kanate's mind is on Real Madrid and on contracts and all. He's away with the fairies at the moment, so he needs to wake up, to be honest. And I think he could be potentially the problem there, especially with Bradley only coming back in and stuff like that. Bradley's a phenomenal player, but because he's only coming back in and he hasn't been really in the heat of that kind of situation and stuff, And then the other thing as well is we had a huge build up to the Monday night game against Newcastle. Is there a little bit of a come down from that as well? Because, it was the Monday night wars and everyone was going to do this, that, and the other to everyone and all this kind of thing. Now you're going into a game where we're looking across the pitch and we're going, right, these are our actual title rivals here. And I think the way this season is going to pan out and the pressure that both teams are going to put on week in, week out to know that draws are a waste of time. You must win games and get those 3 points. I think this league could be decided nearly in the head-to-heads, especially in the head-to-heads if you take ourselves, Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City. I think those 4 head-to-heads are going to be absolutely pivotal. And that's why I said we will take a look at what's coming up in September and October as well, because that has very interesting reading as well. Keith's in. I hope Salah steps it up for this game. He's been very quiet in the last game. Very quiet, but got the winning assist. That's the thing about Salah. Even Salah on his bad day still produces.
Salah has been, obviously got the assist, but the signings we've made has taken the burden off Salah. And I believe, fair enough, he's got his more money. I've seen a comment the other night about Salah picking up more money than he was last season, but he seems to have took the foot off the gas. The whole idea with Liverpool Football Club is to try and get back to the way we were when we had Bobby, Sadio and Mo. Gakpo was scoring and getting assists. Ekatike is scoring and getting assists. Salah is getting assists. He is going to score goals. It's take the pressure off. If Verts can add to that, we know Gravenberch and McAllister can add to that. Bring in Isaac. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. But Salah was the be-all and end-all last season. Had the best season I've ever seen from a Liverpool player. But what you want is shared load. You can't be relying on that guy all the time. I have him in my fantasy football. I have him as my captain. I do want him to score goals. But again, I don't care who gets the job done once we get the wins.
Definitely not. And listen, I wouldn't be crapping on Mikel Moreno. Mikel Moreno has had some serious games for Arsenal last season. For a boy who was played out of position so much as well, he certainly performed. Nothing wrong with that kid at all, that's for sure. Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's really important that you rebalance that out and all. You can't have one player having 65% of your GA in the season. And not only that, that one player that's only signed on for potentially another 2 years or whatever it is. So you need to make plans to rebalance that and make sure you're bringing more people into it. I certainly would like to see a lot more goals coming. I would like us to score goals the way the likes of Gabriel and Saliba and guys like that do it off those corners and set pieces as well. Need a little bit more of that because we've got big guys in there, but sometimes they just don't act like big guys when they're in there, and I'd like to see more of that as well. Let's have a quick actually, before we go into this, get your predictions, boys, for it. Give us score predictions here. Dano, you kick us off.
We let Kenny go first. We let Kenny go.
Thanks.
See that, Kenny.
Game, as I said, will be one in midfield, but it depends. There's a lot of things hinging on who's going to be fit, who's not going to be fit. It's very difficult. I mean, if we're going to go off the lineups that we see here on the graphic there, which look is kind of heading towards it, to be honest. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's going to be high scoring. I think, like Niall alluded to, it definitely won't be the 0-0 as we're joking about there. Although we could be talking on Monday and say, well, that was a 0-0. But anyway, God, they're putting me on the spot here because it's Anfield, isn't it? You know, it's Anfield. I've said it before. It's, in my opinion, the toughest ground in world football to take any team to, without any shadow of doubt. But let's go with a 2-2. Let's go with a 2-2.
2-2. 2-2. You know, if it ends up 2-2, the chances are we're going into the international break with Spurs top of the league.
Don't even say things like that. Don't even. You know what? It doesn't matter, Niall. It doesn't even matter. They can top the league by 50 points going into the last 3 games. They'd still bottle it. It's all right. It's fine.
We'll have to, Niall. We'll have to get Graham on. If that is the case, you'll have to get Graham on during the international to do the international break to do a special on how it feels for a Spurs fan to be top of the league.
Do you always remember Spurs and that season that Leicester won the league? Spurs were in a 2-horse race and still ended up outside the top 2. So I mean that just kind of sums it up in a nutshell.
Did you ever see that? Did you ever see the video online on X where your man is interviewing the Asian guy, and he's asking him, he goes, and Man United, he goes, yeah, Man United, and he goes, and Man City, oh yeah, Man City, and Liverpool, and all, he goes, Tottenham Hotspur, he goes, and your man goes, Tottenham, Spur, Hotspur, Tottenham? No, he hasn't got a clue who they are. So funny. It's hilarious. Dino?
You can never bet against your team, especially when they're at home. I'm saying all week it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't want to sound too optimistic. I don't want to rub it into Kenny. You know, he's being honest. He's gone with a 2-2 away from home against what looks like one of the best teams around.
He'll be here for you next week. He'll call you out on the wrestling show or whatever he's on again.
I'm sure he will. No, I just think I'm going to stick with what I've said all week. I'm going to stick with me go. I think this could be the game for Wirtz to finally show up. I think Gravenberch and McAllister in the middle of the park again together. I think they're the best midfield too in the league by a country mile. I know people will argue and say that when it ends up. I just think the boys last year absolutely stole the show in the middle of the park. Gravenberch came out of nowhere. You know, I don't think anybody expected what he did last season. He just came out of the blue. He's one of the first names on the team sheet now when he's fit. Bradley coming back in, more assured at right back. Kanate can't get worse than he did on Monday. Let's be honest. That's the worst performance I've ever seen by a losing team, or the worst performance I've ever seen by a winning team on Monday night. I'm gonna go with 3-1. I just think
that's what champions are made of.
That's what champions are made of. I don't want to sound too confident. I just think with everyone back in the right position, I think Wirtz is going to finally step up and shows what the cost is worth. 3-1, and Salah to finally get on the sheet.
3-1. I thought you were going to go 4-3 and give us one of those Stan Collymore Newcastle festivals or something like that.
Can't do another one of them.
No, I only need one of them. I think this will be 2-1 to Liverpool, and I think it'll only be that because I think Arsenal are going to miss a few chances. That's the only reason, and because we're at home as well. But I think this is going to be a bit more tighter and a bit more technical. I don't think it'll be really, really open because you look at Arsenal. Arsenal don't cough up a lot of goals. They don't give away a lot of goals. They keep things really, really tight. And for us to put 3 past them would be a massive statement, I think, you know. Salah going to have a field day against Arsenal. What
don't know.
You know, yeah, I know what you mean, Keith, about Spurs could win the August trophy and stuff like that. I like being top of the league. I like leading from the front and feeling that pressure every week of having
pressure on other people.
I like that. I like that, you know what I mean? So that's where I was coming from more so than the Spurs thing. But right, and just quick look then. This is what we're looking like in September and October. So if you look at Arsenal coming back then, the 13th, they've got Forest at home, Man City at home, and Newcastle away. Kenny, tough September.
Yeah, it is. But look, it's a box ticking exercise as well, isn't it? I mean, you're looking at First day of the season, Old Trafford, irrespective of how awful they've been and how awful they will be as well, it's still Old Trafford, still away, and they got the 3 points without playing well. So it's a box-ticking exercise. So I'm happy to get these big fixtures. As I was saying, even getting this Liverpool away out of the way after 3 games in, it does take a lot of pressure off you because, you've got 35 more games to chase. You know what I mean? So I'm not a big fan of looking too far ahead. I do like just to take each game at a time because you can get very much bogged down into, okay, we're going to get points there, and you get a completely arseways, and it's completely off the cuff.
You could have more players out, or you could have players back.
You could. Look, the international break is coming. Traditionally, that does come back with some problems as well, yourself. But yeah, looking at that, I mean, look, you'll always have to put your best chest forward, and I think you have to expect wins against everyone you're playing. I mean, you can't just go out with the intention of, oh look, we've Liverpool away, we've Man City home, so we're going to lose them, but let's just focus on Crystal Palace at home.
Plus, you're also up against 3 teams there that are going to be in Europe like yourself, because Europe will have kicked off at that stage.
You will, yeah, and that's the other side of it too. You're talking about like the Crystal Palace, for example, would say, how are they going to cope? It's a trek into the unknown for them, completely. So you just don't know. Fixture wise, look, the way I look at fixtures, you play the same 19 teams twice every season. I don't really care what order you play them in, because you're always going to have a run of fixtures throughout the league that you're going to pick up points and go on a run, and you take care of the big games when they come around. So yeah, I mean, look, on paper they're difficult, but look, I mean, you're looking at Newcastle. Sure, he's actually be talking out for Liverpool on the 27th, so that'd be all right. And he always scores against us too. So yeah, bring it on.
They have the new Anthony Gordon in with the mustache.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Gail Platt.
This guy that Newcastle signed though is, I think he's going to hit the ground running. He was top scorer at the under-21s during the summer. He's a very, very, very good signing. Maybe a little overpriced, but everyone knows.
I'm going to take a big gamble, isn't it?
Newcastle are going to have massive money in the pocket in the next 36 hours, probably. So, look at us with Ekatike, big money. I just think with the chances, if Newcastle can keep their players injury-free, that's Newcastle's big problem. Like Spurs, they always seem to have a big pool of injured players at the wrong time in the season. They scraped over the line last season, got Champions League football. I just think if they can put a good target man up there, they will create chances with Gordon and Alanga, and I think this guy will take them. But looking at air fixtures down Niall, what can you say there? You don't want to be looking at fixtures and saying, right, we've 6 games there, but that one team there, I don't mind losing to them because they're a great team. You're obviously going to back your own team. I'm looking at air fixtures there, Burnley away. You got to be confident in your own team. Everton at home, all form goes out the window. Palace away. They're in Europe on the Thursday. I imagine that game will be on the Sunday.
The Chelsea one at the Bridge is the one where you could come.
That's what I was going to get to. It's the only fixture of them 6 where you'd say, look, you want to win every game, but that's the one game. Like, bar Palace and Chelsea, everyone else has the week off. They don't have European football.
And we don't know what United will be like at that stage as well. We don't know.
They could have a new manager. Could be a massive implosion yet.
Yeah, so I think Kenny's point is right as well. So, Azers, I love your confidence. 18 points out of those 6 fixtures. I would love that. But you can see the Chelsea one for me sticks out because Chelsea are phenomenal as well. And they have a great squad and stuff. So, I don't know. We'd have to see. Yeah, well, listen. Pleasure having you on. It's going to be a cracking game on Sunday. Really looking forward to it. I hope it delivers as well. I hope, because we know Sky is going to absolutely ramp this up now. So I hope it really, really delivers and stuff like that. It's going to be very, very interesting. I hope it's not
spoiled. On that one, I want to get your opinion on something. So, like, you look at these fixtures, Liverpool fixtures or Man United fixtures and stuff like that, and I'm looking at the coverage on those games. And what's your opinion on having a Jamie Carragher on Liverpool games? Gary Neville on Man United games. Do you think you get something objective from them? And like an actual proper objective opinion, or do you think that?
I think it's great to have them 2 on when Liverpool play Manchester United.
Yeah,
because it's boisterous. It's a bit of banter. Liverpool beat United 7-0. Carragher's laughing in Neville's face. That's great. Everyone wants to watch that because Liverpool and United, they're the two most. They've got the utmost hatred for each other as rivals. Do I agree with what you're saying? It just brings the narrative of I'm the Liverpool fan sitting in the gantry and all. I'm happy if we win. I'm going to call people out if we lose. I'd like to see other people getting involved a bit more. But it's the same with having that Martin Foiler on every United game. We all know he was the biggest fanboy of Man United. You know what I mean? Everybody was happy when he stepped aside. But I agree with you, Kenny. You know, sometimes it's a bit tiring. I'd imagine Niall might agree. It's great to have Carragher on when things are going great now. But at times, you just need a break from it. But then again, who else is there out there? Because, as Niall will tell you, sometimes I'd rather be deaf watching football because there's so many pundits, Kenny, nowadays that just spout the same shit. It's like they're giving a guidebook at the start of the season and they highlight what they have to say, and it's the same thing repetitive every single week.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what's happened? What's happened with these guys now and with these, you know, these big broadcasters and stuff like that is they've actually tried to start presenting themselves like us, like content creators.
Yeah.
And they've tried to be, you know, we're the representation of the people now as opposed to the representation of the broadcaster. You know, and it's weird from that point of view. Like when I hear Gary Neville, who was probably one of the worst managers ever, I think when I see him trying to give Pep advice and Arteta advice and Slot advice, and you know, it's easy to sit in the studio afterwards and go, oh, but if you had to put him here and all this and all, no one knows how a game's going to play out beforehand. You know what I mean? And I just think, I think what happens is when you take those boys out of it, what happens is then the drop off to the next level of who they bring in and stuff like that is just kind of it's nearly at a level of talk sport jarring kind of, you know, that kind of way. And it's like who do you kind of bring in? I know where you're coming from. Should they be in there on their own games, if you like, and stuff like that and all, you know?
But I think it's a point I'm making. I don't know if you tune into the likes of what you do over in likes of Fox Sport and CBS and stuff like that. You do let the shackles off a little bit as well. I feel with that, it just makes it a little bit more entertaining as well. But I look some of the pre and post match analysis from those kind of broadcasters, and I compare them like. It's very, very rigid and very kind of, these are my clubs and I'm going to do this. And I go, Roy Keane is the same. You can't have an objective opinion Roy Keane is on a Man United game either, because he's just spouting about Man United this, Man United that. We looked at Arsenal beating Man United there at Old Trafford on the opening of the season, and the emphasis was on, you know, how poor Arsenal were. You know, this, that, and the other. But Arsenal came away with the 3 points. Let's not get it twisted. You know,
I think, do you know what it is? I think you look at it and you think, and I like sometimes listening to Robbie Mustoe and, you know, Robbie Earle and guys like that as well. But you still need a Stevie Nicol and you still need a Craig Burley to like just give you that fucking side swipe that makes you feel that they actually are still human like us. You know what I mean? And that you're not watching a movie, like, you know, because it's for broadcasters, those guys, even Kane. You see Kane just going off on one and stuff like that and all, and it's a little bit entertaining, but it's like sometimes it's like as if they're trying to hit what you say, Kenny, that AFTV kind of thing. They're trying to bring that to it as well, because I think they know sometimes that's where the eyes and ears are. Sometimes when I finish watching a match, I'd rather go listen to some of the content creators than I will actually to listen to what's going on in the studio.
But that's the way things are going, though, Niall, because if you look at Sky Sports, or even Sky Sports News, or even have a segment now with actual fans from, you know, their various different podcasts, or they're on TV an awful lot more. I don't know if you tuned in, and I know it's a completely different thing to what we're speaking about. You listened to the first promo on SmackDown there today with Logan Paul. And some of the stuff that John Cena said about him, some of the stuff that Logan Paul even said, I'm after getting eyes on this. I got Netflix. I got ESPN. I got Prime all over the place now as well, because he's coming from that world, and that's where they're edging towards. And look, all fair play to them. Look, they're doing good stuff and all that, but you know, I think bring back Johnny Giles and Eamon Dunphy. All is forgiven.
I have the elite suggestion. Brian Kerr. What a man! What a man! Oh, you need Brian Kerr watching Arsenal and Liverpool, talking about Mrs. O'Brien's ham sandwiches that she used to bring to the Hill and Sun Drive Park.
His breakdown of
Love
Shaqiri
that.
is legendary, isn't it? The Shaqiri
Yeah.
breakdown. But you know what it is with these guys that you like, the likes of Brian Kerr and all. There's a cadence and there's
the love of football.
Yeah, he's talking from the sideline as if he's still in the tracksuit with the clipboard.
Yeah.
And there's a cadence to him about as well. And he talks like the way me and you would talk about football.
But so that's what I want to listen to.
So he resonates with us. So that's why it works. And that's why you'll find an awful lot of the time you may switch on a content creator on YouTube and rather listen to that than the kind of...
You know what they need to do?
You know?
I'm not on social media. You need to push this, Niall. And you, Kenny, this will get massive exposure. They need to bring back the fan. Remember the fan, what was it? The fan room.
Oh, yes.
Fan zone.
Imagine being in the fan zone with some United fan and they scoring in the 90th minute and you just turning around and leveling them.
Yeah. Screaming in lads' faces.
The thing about that now is you have that because everyone's doing watch-alongs.
Yeah.
So you kind of have it. So if me and Kenny were sitting here on Sunday doing a watch-along, and we were giving it welly and stuff like that and all, you know, people love that kind of thing. So
you do. Look at Mark Goldbridge. People watch Mark Goldbridge for his meltdowns because, you know, they're just brilliant.
His meltdown.
He's legendary, and that deal he did with the Bundesliga. That's and it's gonna you're gonna see more of that. You're gonna see much more of that.
Yeah.
I think within 10 years you will be picking up your football content on the medium that we create here and stuff like that and all. And there won't be, you're not going to get your Sky Sports and your Talk Sports and all that kind of stuff.
You need to get two fans. Go on, sorry, go on.
No, I was saying they try to impersonate what they watch and stuff like that. Like, you even heard your man Victor Yerkes there last week talking about the hair flicks because the lads are flagging about the amount of hair flicks stuff that. So they listen and they watch in and they listen to what people are saying and stuff like that as well. So it's, you know, and 90% of content creators, it's only with love for your club and stuff like that. We all lose it at times and all. And me and Dino will go back and forward on WhatsApp during the game and all. And we will go from loving players to hating players and all sorts of
stuff. Back to loving them.
And that's back to loving them. Yeah.
Do you remember the two commentators? Remember the longest yard, the reboot, Adam Sandler? Do you remember? Or no, not the longest yard, the Mean Machine. With Vinnie Jones and them. Do you remember the two boys commentating during the Coppers versus the Inmates match? Down pitch side, that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Well, lads, a pleasure having you both on and off for this preview.
Nice to see you again, pal.
Pleasure to see you, pal.
You too, my dude.
Don't forget, folks, Sunday night we'll be doing a watch along for Clash in Paris, and I think we're going to do a watch along on Monday.
Hot take for Clash in Paris. Yeah. Apparently, the gold is going on LA night. That's the rumor circulating tonight.
Brave move. Brave move.
Very, very brave move.
Interesting. And congratulations to Cody Rhodes on having another child, him and Brandy and the family. Absolutely.
Congrats.
I feel bad now because I was hating on him on Wednesday night about not being there. And then I realized well, they told me he shagged off to fucking record Street Fighter. You know what I mean? That was the narrative we were being told.
How dare he not be in Dublin?
Yeah, how dare he not be in Dublin?
Cody, we've hospitals here as well to take care of that kind of thing.
And Dino walks in the hospital. Dino's the porter. We can push us around.
What does Roy Keane say? Well, surely he's not breastfeeding the baby. There you go. Right, folks. Until next time. Kenny, enjoy the weekend, whatever the result is. I'm sure we'll be back and forth about and stuff like that. Dino, talk to you over the weekend as well.
Have a good one, lads.
Cheers, guys.
Hit the bell notification and drop a like on the video. Talk to you real soon. Cheers, lads.
Peace.